You guys been asking me, so it's time to do it. I was gonna hold off one more week, but I need to do some testing on the Derringer. Now, today we're not gonna be doing any towing. We're gonna be doing some unloaded acceleration. So what I did was, I have some footage of the truck with just the boost tubes and turbo inlet. And then I did a 0 to 60 quarter-mile run with just those things. I turned around, added my cold air intake, and did the same thing. Now today we're going to be doing a test for the Derringer in level 6. If you guys want, maybe I can do a level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't think it's probably worth it though. I think the level 6 is what most of you guys want to see. So let's go ahead and quickly do a synopsis on this Derringer, just so you guys have a better understanding, because I know someone's going to ask this question in the comment section. Will it void the warranty? Let's go ahead and talk about that first. I've had cars in the past that I've modified. I had a Volkswagen GLI that I modified. I had an Audi R8 that were both under factory warranty still. And I took the cars in actually for warranty work. And the reason why I didn't care is because the dealerships I was going to didn't care either. Here's something you have to understand. Warranty pays far less compared to customer pay. If you have a scumbag dealership that says that your cold air intake got your warranty denied, they're a scumbag, because they have to prove, and you can go and read this for yourself. You go into your warranty booklet. If you have a failure on this engine, if you added a cold air intake, that cold air intake has to be linked to that failure. They have to say, oh, the reason why your injector failed is because the cold air intake, because the oiling of the filter caused it to fail. They would have to link it to it. They can't just say, oh, you have a cold air intake, we're going to deny the claim of your engine. They can't do that. They actually have to have proof that that boost tube, or even the tuner, made your warranty claim get denied. Now, if you do have the Derringer, there is something you have to do, and I'm going to show it to you. You have to keep this in your truck, therefore you don't have issues in the future. So I think mine is down here. Okay, hold on one second. Here it is. This is a bypass plug for the Derringer. Now, in the event you need to take this truck in for oil change, tire rotation, whether you have a good dealer or not, the best thing you can do is take out your Derringer. I would just go ahead. It's really easy to do once you've installed it in all the different areas around the engine. You don't have to unplug anything. I know some people are like, oh, you have to go in there and unplug all this. No, you don't. Because if you have a good dealer, they don't really care. The reality is, this Derringer unplugs very easily right here. You see the clip? Just unplug it. Put this guy in. You can pretty much probably tell how it goes in there, and you're done. This does not leave a footprint. You're not going in through the ECM and tuning the computer. You're not doing that. So the reality is, once you undo this, it's like it was never there. And let's go online really quickly, because I want to show you guys why I even added this on my truck. You guys know I've had issues with my 10-speed. Now, I have had them reflash it. I just never did any videos on it. I haven't noticed the transmission doing that weird like shift. It's like a downshift that it does, like it shutters. I haven't noticed it, but again, I haven't driven my truck a ton after they did it, and most of the time when I've been driving my truck, it's been under load with my trailer, so it never does it under load. It always does it unloaded. Now we'll discuss some of the issues with my transmission here in a second, but I want to go through some of the features and some of the benefits of the Derringer. Now, Banks does call this a high output system. If GM were to bring out a high output Duramax, this is basically what they would probably do, right? It's the cheapest way to get power, which is just adding boost. Now, they show here the Gen 2 L5P Duramax had about 438 horsepower and 928 pound-feet of torque, which I'm assuming they measure that to the wheels, right? Now, with this system, it goes from 438 horsepower up to 500 919 horsepower, and it goes from 928 pound-feet of torque up to 1,068 pound-feet of torque. The system provides a massive increase in torque across the working range of the engine. So basically, in that mid to top is where you're going to really see the benefits for this power. Now, one thing I like about Banks is they are showing you the usable power. Most tuners are going to only show you what you can get at the crank because it always looks better at the crank. You can always say, oh man, I have over this much horsepower torque, but it's not usable power. What they're showing you here is usable power. Now, back in 2017, GM introduced the Gen 1 L5P. It had 445 horsepower, 910 pound-feet of torque. Fast forward to 2024, they did some updates to the engine and they were able to turn out 470 horsepower and 975 pound-feet of torque. This is basically Banks' high output version of the Duramax. The 2023 Ford Power Strokes have a high output. Ram just recently got away from high output. Now they just have one engine, which is their high output. And this system basically puts them over 1,000 pound-feet of torque. I would like to know what the crank horsepower and torque numbers are though. But with that being said, there is 6 levels with this system. So if you're someone who doesn't necessarily want the power, maybe you're going off-road and you just want the truck to be in stock level, you have that option on the iDash Pro. And that's what I like about this system. So let's kind of go through that really quickly. Here's a chart that shows the horsepower and torque numbers. Actually just shows you the torque here for the level. So level 1 is stock. So that's what you're going to have, what you saw earlier, which was 928 pound-feet of torque. That is what you're going to have to the wheels. Now if you crank it up to level 2, that's going to give you an 88 pound-feet of torque increase. Level 3, 102 pound-feet. Level 4, 117 pound-feet. And then level 5 and 6 is where it really gets interesting. You get 158 pound-feet of torque at level 5, and that's the max at level 6, which is 178. So they're saying, you know, the level 2 is going to be that fuel economy, and they do have an asterisk next to that too, by the way. But level 3 and 4 is that work and heavy towing, and then level 5 and 6 is just, as Gail Banks calls it, hauling you know what. So all levels are safe to tow thanks to Derringer's real-time monitoring of exhaust gas and coolant temperatures, transmission slip, and other data points. I am going to show you why this Derringer is safe for the drivetrain and powertrain, and a lot of it has to do with the monitoring of, you know, the systems like the exhaust gas temps. They even discuss altitude compensation, coolant temps. So the Derringer won't add power in certain circumstances for the drivetrain and powertrain. But I really want to talk about the transmission because everyone knows that GM is just having a time of their life with failures. They're 6.2s, and obviously now this 10-speed transmission is still ongoing with issues, and we haven't really seen a actual fix on that yet. At least I haven't heard of one. But I'm going to read this to you guys. It does say here, Derringer high output is calibrated to modulate power during shifts for better clutch engagement. Thanks to its OBD connectivity, Derringer knows when the GM Allison 10-speed transmission is shifting gears. It reduces its added power momentarily to allow for a smooth shift. Competitive tuners have no idea or simply ignore when the transmission is shifting and continue to add power, overspeeding the transmission and causing long-term damage. So this is why I chose to add this system. Now I will be honest with you guys. Before I added it, you know, because you guys know Jay at Banks did send this to me and I was really excited, but I had to read this to really get excited to add it because I did not want anything to add on to the stress of that 10-speed. And you guys see right here, you can actually set up on your iDash Pro what gear you're in. So before the truck shifts, and it even has like something for like slipping too on the iDash that you can monitor. So any slippage with the torque converter, things like that, that you can monitor all that stuff. So this system, and I'm talking about the Derringer, actually knows what's going on. So before it shifts, it's kind of reducing the power that it's adding to stock. And then once you shift, now it's going to add the power again. So you're not having issues with power, you know, potentially affecting the overall reliability of your transmission, right? And that's why I said, I feel as though GM should make this an upgrade that they approve of, because obviously Banks does their research to make sure that they don't take out an engine or transmission by just adding power, because at the end of the day we want power, but we want it to be reliable, and that's pretty much what you see here. Let's take the truck for a drive. Now let's just say you're that kind of guy who you want to jump in your truck, start it up, you want to go right up to level 6 and just go crazy. The Derringer is not going to work if your engine is cold, because it can sense these things. It knows the temperature. So before it will actually add power, you have to be at operating temperature. So that is the beauty of this system, is it's not going to potentially destroy your engine and transmission because of negligence too on your part. And that's what's nice is, so when I do my 0 to 60 runs, I have to make sure the truck is actually at operating temperatures. But you guys probably did see here, if I go down to level 1, it just says stock, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6. So let's go ahead and let the engine warm up, and then we'll do some testing here. Now, my truck just got done doing a regen, and yeah, my DPF's at 12% full, I guess that's how I read that basically. But yeah, I'm going about 250 to about 170 miles between my regens. I am going to switch over to the Lorenzo fuel additive with insane diesel. I did get their oil, so I'm using their 15W40 synthetic oil. It's not cheap stuff, I'm not even gonna lie, it's like a lot of money, but hopefully with their bypass system for the oil filter, I can probably go a true 10,000 miles. I'll probably never go much more than that, even if my oil analysis says I can. I feel like 10,000 is good for me. But yes, when you give it the juice, I mean, it's insane how much power. This is on level, yeah, that's on level 6. Yeah, it's incredible. Now I'm going to show you guys the footage now for the 0 to 60. The first one's going to be with just the boost tubes and the turbo inlet. Second one's going to be the cold air intake, and then the third one's going to be level 6 for the Derringer.
Thirty. 60. Quarter mile.
Thoughts? I will do a follow-up video after I do my tow test. I might try to do a whole spreadsheet with all the numbers, but you guys noticed that the mile an hour is a little bit less with the Derringer, which I was a little shocked by. But one thing I will tell you is you can actually tell when the power drops off in between the shifts, and that's probably one of the coolest things about this system. That's why I did discuss that in the video, because when I did the 0 to 60s on these trucks, I really noticed the difference in the shifts on the Derringer. I feel as though there is a fail-safe there, and so it does affect your mile an hour. Now I will say, if you're under load, it could get better, because when the trucks have something holding it back, I can't explain this, but I just know what's happening. When I had my Ram high output, I could clearly tell the difference between the power and how it got delivered. And when it's under load, it's like it unlocks all the power. But when you're able to race off from a dig, you know, and get to the mile an hour a lot quicker, I feel as though there is a little bit more torque management. That's the best way I can explain it. So under load, you're able to get all the power, and I'm willing to bet you that'll probably be the biggest difference with this Derringer. See you guys soon.